What the heck is a quad lock?
Watch this to find out. Whether you're in the car, on the bike, on the water, in the air, your phone is an important tool. Keep it secure with Quad Lock.
Mate, they're coming past me at, 170 kilometres an hour, this far away from me. I have conversations with Liam every weekend that I'm there. It's just awful how he was treated. And we all know it's clear. It's a terrible car.
How do you go from racing full time to then getting this gig?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a load of people that are drivers that are coming to the end of their career going, I wonder what the lifespan is on a medical car driver, because that's a good gig.
When the fines came out for swearing, I think it was Carlos came in and said, well, what words are allowed and what's not allowed? Like, how long's a piece of string?
Can we say tits?
Yeah, but
In what context would you ever need to say tits in a press conference, Elliot?
There was a swear word that I could say that wasn't too bad for Paul.
He's in defence! The banter defence! All in defence! Oh, unbelievable!
So you can do the honours, Carlos. So as I'm sure you're well aware,
I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
sound check that bad boy.
Jesus, here we go. Oh, that was a good one, I felt.
What are the magic words?
What is the magic?
You didn't say sound check.
Sound check.
There you go.
Sound check.
It's written on your stubby call, mate.
This is all scripted. Sound check. All right, that's the first part done.
Sound check.
Sound check.
Cheers, mate. Welcome.
Cheers.
Welcome
Thanks
to
for having me,
studio.
Scotty.
Cheers. My laptop's going to be toast eventually. The amount of times I've
nearly spilled.
sprayed all over my laptop. Well, we have a very special guest in the studio tonight, Barbs. You want to do the honours?
That we do, Scotty. Very excited to have Karl Reindler in here. We've been talking about this for a little while, Scotty. We've wanted to get Karl in.
It's been a busy schedule this year for me.
You do have a very busy schedule. So you are the F1 medical car driver.
Correct.
How many rounds are you doing this year with that?
Mate, of the 24 races on the program, I have a little over half. I've got 14 this year. It's my fourth season doing it. So kind of broken the back on my season in the first half. I did the first 9 events straight. So really busy get-go, starting off at Albert Park, just down the road here, which is always nice. It's actually quite a surreal weekend for me. It's a strange one. I've got 2 kids, as you know, Barbs and Scotty as well. So for me, it starts on the Wednesday. We've got a high-speed track test. So I have the entire Albert Park Lake circuit to myself, and I've got to share with this German bloke, Mr. Mailander, as well in the safety car. But it's the 2 of us, and we get the whole circuit to ourselves for an entire hour, which is a kind of pinch yourself experience in itself. And this is everywhere we go. We get the circuit to ourselves. I'll go into some of the reasons why we've got that practice session, but I finished that practice session on track. And then I look at my watch and go, shit, guys, I've got to get going. School pickup. School pickup, basketball training on a Wednesday night, drop the kids to school on a Thursday morning, then straight back to the track again. It's a real novelty to live. I'm just down the road here, so 12 or 13 minutes from Albert Park, and what is ordinarily 40 kilometre an hour speed limit around Albert Park, and we're hustling around there in that the big rig, the medical car, at as fast as that thing will go.
It's actually a pretty cool opportunity, isn't it? We've actually got someone in here. For those listening, we are also live streaming on Patreon tonight, but Jessie Hulk has put in there that high-speed test was impressive to watch in person. So she must have actually been at the track. But it is... On the setup day, we always hear you guys squealing around, and you kind of went viral at Silverstone, actually, for curb hopping through the last chicane there.
Mate, I was channeling my inner back chicane at the Gold Coast, Gold Coast 600. Yeah, I thought nothing of it. And there's a few misconceptions around about this. So for anyone that hasn't seen it, probably just Google search, it'll pop up. But at Silverstone, you've got the final chicane, the second last corner there. And in the track test, I thought I'd tip it in a bit early, and there's a sausage curb at the apex there. And I'm in an Aston Martin DBX, the big rig, high centre of gravity. And I just thought, part of what we do the track test for, I think it's important to mention, apart from, we look at it from a performance perspective. For us, we've got to get around that track as fast as we possibly can. It might look slow comparatively to the F1 cars, but we're ragging that thing as hard as it will go, setting our own purple sectors. Our performance is quantified. All of our lap times, they're all displayed. All the Formula One teams get to hear our communication in the car.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on us, but not only from a performance perspective, we also need to understand how best to get from any point on the track to the medical centre as quickly as possible. We need to know where all the potential shortcuts are. If I can, there's no track limits for me. If I can cut a chicane, I'll cut a chicane. So that hour on track, it's a systems check where we check all the light systems. We do a full start procedure, yellow flag, safety car start, red flag procedure. Comms check, we'll check the radio around the circuit. It's honestly, it's like the first time you jump back into a car. You do the comms check around each corner in a race car. And then for me, it's just exploring, seeing what the car, it's a road car at the end of the day. Yes, It's got slightly more robust cooling, but outside of the cooling, it's a stock standard road car with a cage in it.
So no performance parts added at all?
No, mate. It's it's got 707 horsepower.
It's not exactly
if we're talking about the Aston, and obviously the AMG, we split it 50-50. But it's on a road tyre. It's a bloody good road tyre. It's a top of the range Pirelli, so it's quite sticky, but it's also got to perform well in wet conditions and dry conditions. So we go out there and we push the hardest I'll push all weekend is in that session. And the reason for that is I want to know if there's going to be an issue, I want to know at what point, what intensity of driving that issue, whether it's we call it limp mode. It's kind of the colloquial term, but the engineers call it derate, where the engine overheats and it starts to take power away. That's the most likely thing to happen. But modern cars, as you guys know, high performance cars, it's absurd how hard you can grab these things by the scruff of the neck and just, be mechanically disrespectful if you need to. So we push it hard, find out what the car's capable of, and then it's a matter of kind of reining it in for the remainder of that weekend. So back to the original question, Silverstone, I've gone into the chicane, tipped it in, and hit the curb like you do on the back chicane at Gold Coast, and the thing's got a lot of hang time, not just a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was so easy and so effortless to do in this car. It's just clipped the curb, right up on two wheels, landed, hit this next apex, and just kind of pressed on. But I did it 5 or 6 laps in a row, and I think a few people kind of cottoned onto it and filmed it. Next minute, I think it's got the most amount of views on Formula One's own Instagram page. It's like 20 million views, and they didn't bloody tag me in it. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, that is annoying.
Anyway, but
I did. You're right. You can just Google it. So if anyone wants to say, I'll put the video in the link, but anyone listening audio, you can. I just typed in YouTube yesterday for the clip so that I'm prepped to make a short form content out of it. But there was that many videos of you going through. It wasn't just the one, but it's very cool to see. Before we do get into it, we should just recap some of your driving here in Australia and what you've done, really, because I think it's interesting for people that the role you're actually in a position to do now, but it's not like you turned up with no qualifications and got to just drive a F1 medical car.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's one question before we rattle off all of it, which you kind of semi-answered, but why do they utilise race car drivers for that role? Because some people that aren't avid fans wouldn't have understood until you just explained it, that you're actually ragging that thing as fast as you can.
Yeah, so you've got to drive it fast, but the driving is genuinely the easiest part of it. There's 1,000 people in the world that can drive that car as fast as it needs to be driven, and it is genuinely, it is on the edge. It is on the absolute edge of what there's those 4 cars. Actually, there's 8 cars in total. There's 2 AMG safety cars, 2 AMG med cars, 2 Aston Martin safety, 2 Aston Martin med. So 8 cars in total, and I would put money on it that those 8 cars are the hardest driven road cars consistently on the planet. The way that Bernd manhandles that safety car, he's a ripping bloke as well. We can talk about Bernd later.
Who's faster? He's done a back-to-back?
Oh, look,
Come on, Carlos, give us the truth here, mate. We'll tag him.
He's always in the quicker car, right?
Oh, he's got Jazzy.
But there's been once or twice where we've done a swap, and I've definitely got his measure. But, he's been doing it since it's his 26th season in Formula One that he's been doing that. He's part of the furniture. He does a bloody good job. His awareness, I sit in the safety car with him for Porsche Supercup and F1 Academy when I'm not required. And I find it fascinating just sitting there. I'm not a good passenger at the best of times. I did it for too long, Barbs, as you know.
Yeah.
Being a passenger, even with a professional, we're all, let's be honest, we're all control freaks, right?
Yeah.
We all like to maintain control. So when you relinquish that control, sit in the passenger seat with someone like Mr. Mylander, Bernd, it's pretty full on. But the awareness, the situational awareness that he has, and understanding when he cops a lot of shit for sometimes being too slow. It's always Max that's hanging shit on him. I wish, why can't Bernd speed up?
Just Canada recently.
Canada, exactly. But what the drivers don't know, the drivers are looking at the world through their lens, right? They're all selfish. I don't mean that in any sort of negative way. They're going into bat for themselves first and foremost. And they're losing tyre temps and pressures. But what they don't understand is the bigger picture. Race control is quite often telling Bernd, mate, just hold off here. We're half a chance of getting this accident cleaned up on this lap. If you hold off, we might be able to get green on this lap. The drivers don't know that. Bernd's got that information. So he's sort of managing it, getting, managing the pace. And he, quite often he'll get information that there's a bit of debris up ahead at turn 14 or whatever it might be. So he's got a lot of additional information, but he's honestly the best person for that role. He does a good job.
It is. They actually, I think Max even acknowledged that was the reason why Canada was slow. So at least they are being made aware, because he said, I think they did it because they wanted to try and get a green flag lap in before the end of the race.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I still think, rather than, why not just extend these races? Like Formula One is the biggest form of motorsport in the world.
I agree, yeah.
Give them a green, white checkered.
Yeah.
Like overtime, don't ever finish under yellow. And then you would prevent Bernd having to do that in the first place.
Or the 2021
Correct.
situation
Exactly.
as well.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
I tend to agree. I don't make the rules. I have to abide by the rules as well. But it begs the question. I think it doesn't matter what championship it is, I think you should always be challenging the way that you go about things and be prepared to try something new and different. And if it doesn't work, then heck, well, at least you gave it a go.
That's such a good way of putting it. Always challenging what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
I just upset people when I try and challenge things. So you've put that perfectly. See, I need the gift of the gap. If I could speak like that, I wouldn't have upset anyone this whole time I've been doing a podcast.
They would think you're lovely, like Carl. Everyone thinks Carl's lovely. He's actually a prick.
But you should probably say you guys actually have been friends for a very long time. It's not just a guest on the pod you just called a prick out of nowhere.
Bit of context here. Carl, I've been very lucky to, when I first got into motorsport.
Be careful what you say here, mate.
Yeah, no,
You're within arm's reach of me right now. Right. I'll put you in a headlock.
When I was a whippersnapper coming in, one of the first people I met when I was working was Karl in the driver training game. Very lucky, because you took me under your wing and taught me all the bad things I know now.
All your bad habits.
But yeah, so we do know each other very, very well. Great mates. But for those that maybe don't know you, Karl, I always think it's terrible if you do your own intro, so I'll tell them what you have done in the sport, and if there's anything I miss, you just fill it in, mate. But you were a supercar driver for a long time. You did A1 GP. So for those that remember A1 GP, you represented Australia and you were on the podium.
Yep.
In A1 GP. Did a lot of open wheels, Formula 3, the likes of that. You've done Daytona 24 in a Pontiac.
That was fun.
Carrera Cup, GT. So you've pretty much driven anything with a steering wheel or four wheels.
I've had a good run. Tell you what, I've enjoyed it as well. It's to be able to. I think it's not until and Scotty, you can probably attest to this, like at a certain point in your career, and you're still competing not full time, but you're still competing, but you kind of have a moment where you reflect on what you've done and you think, not that you ever took it for granted in the moment, but you kind of get caught up with things in the moment. And then, I don't know, sometimes there's a trigger. For me, I took a year off in 2014. My daughter was born that year, and I took a year off, and it was after that I was like, Jesus, how lucky am I to go and do what I do? People would give their left nut to do what we do. And honestly, if there's one lesson I've learned out of this whole journey in motorsport, is that if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to do the best job of it. It's the shitty years when things aren't going well, the team don't have your back and things aren't going well, and you're not enjoying it and you don't perform accordingly, in my opinion.
You want a hire car? East Coast Car Rental was AHU15 for 15% off on already fantastic priced hire cars. I just want to remind everyone that is a fantastic deal that they offer to you guys, big supporters of ours, but they also want to give back to you. So if you want 15% off your hire car, East Coast Car Rentals, AHU15 is the discount code. And I'll put the link to all of the brands you see behind us here on the screens as well. Trico products, fantastic wiper blades if you're in the market for those. And then if you want to buy a car, not rent one, Lancaster Motor Group, also a big supporter of ours, Shaw and Partners Financial Services. I'll drop the ad in for those as well that I've done a little reading for. But again, the links to these will be in the description. And Quadlock, mate, big supporters of ours, and we have since day one used their mounts, just even here on the pod, but also for the action camera mounts as well, a whole bunch of different stuff. So I'll put the link to their website, quadlockcase.net, in the description. You can take a look at all their products, and I can say that I'll have to do this it's a limited run we're getting, but we are doing Apex Hunters cases. They'll be on our website within the next 2 weeks, but we're going to release those early to Patreon members because they will be a limited run. So if you're a member of our Patreon, you will get first dibs on that. And we are live streaming tonight for our members also. So if you wonder who we call out in the chat, those names are actually our members that join us for these live streams when we're...
Backbone of the show, Scott.
Keeps going, mate. They do.
I love what you guys do with, who's forgotten how to drive. I love that part of what you guys do because it's such a thing, right? Like you don't forget how to drive overnight. It's ridiculous, but there's so many factors that contribute to your performance on track. And if you're running around in a shitbox, and we've all been there, but when you actually get behind the wheel of something half respectable, half decent, there's still luck as a factor. I used to hate when my old man used to say, good luck. I was like, no, I'll make my own luck. And then at a certain point, I was like, you know what? Luck is actually a factor here, whether you care to admit it or not. Yeah. There are things that are out of your control, and you want to control every variable you possibly can, but for every variable you control, there's 100 others that are just, tell me about your weekend up in Hidden Valley, mate.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. As you say, I'm the same. Like, I hate using it as an example. We had shit luck. But as you say, when you put everything in to make sure the car's perfect and everything's happening, then you have like a mechanical failure as an example. And you're like, but we checked that part. That was flawless.
But they even race 2 for you, mate. I watched very closely over that weekend. Like, you had a bit of luck.
Got back into a regional.
It was a bloody disaster. Like, there was just... It was chaos.
Oh yeah.
And you somehow got through, and then you got shafted, and then you bumped back up again. Yeah. There's just so much that goes into it. But it's also kind of what we love about the sport as well. It's
brutally, yeah.
I think
I don't know why we always come back keen. Like you come back for more every time. Like glutton for punishment.
I know.
Yeah.
It's something wrong with us.
There's definitely something wrong with all of us, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Just back on the medical car driving stuff.
Yeah.
Carlos. I was lucky enough to get a lift from the Melbourne GP last year, the year before with you, and you had the doctors with you in the car. You guys were heading to your hotel, and I was driving out. You were giving me a lift to my car.
Yep.
Just talk us through who's in the medical car with you and the information that they've got and what you're actually doing in the event of a crash. Like, who you got with you? What are you up to?
A good question. So we have 2 doctors in the car. There's the FIA doctor who sits up front with me, and there's actually 3 doctors in circulation, so to speak, at the moment. There's Dr. Ian Roberts. He's been doing the medical car role for 11 seasons now, I'm guessing 11 or 12. So he's part of the furniture as well, knows it through and through. But in the last couple of years, probably since COVID, frankly, they've had this realization that there's a bit of a redundancy issue in that if Ian got sick or turned up, had COVID at the time, for argument's sake, who's going to replace him? Who knows exactly how to do his role?
Yeah.
So there's 2 other doctors that have jumped on board, and they split the role the season. And it's a long season. Like, you talk about burnout, over the course of a season. I don't know how these guys do 24 races. I did the first 9 straight. By the end of it, I just wanted to disappear. I love what I do, don't get me wrong, and this is such a first world problem, but I wanted to disappear for a month off the back of it. And I still turn on the TV though, and I'm again glad still watch the races. But
you're probably partying harder than those boys too.
Oh look, you got to give it a nudge, mate. You got to give it a nudge. So we've got 2 extra doctors now. We've got a Hungarian doctor, Laszlo Hetzman, and an American doctor based out of Colorado now, James Kemperman. And they're all ripping blokes. The sense of team that we've got, it's like a race team for both of you. It's like having a teammate that you get on well with. You kind of look after each other. The only difference is there's no sense of competition between the 2 of you. But the trust We always talk about trust in any relationship, but with what we're doing, we talk about the risks of what the drivers are going through. They're exposing themselves to, but there's also an element of risk that we're exposing ourselves to as well. Yeah, if I think back to the Australian Grand Prix last year, George Russell had that flip on the second last lap at turn 7.
That's right. Yeah, we're screaming for the red flag.
Screaming for the red flag, and we get deployed onto a live racetrack. And this is, I'm going on a tangent here, which I will probably do a lot tonight.
We do it all.
I love that because, I want the listeners to know exactly what's going on out there because it's not as easy as it looks on TV. The medical car rolls out.
So we're positioned at pit exit ordinarily 90% of the time. Most circuits we go to pit exit. The engine is idling the entire time, the entire race. We've got 5-point harness on, race seat, helmets on, mic'd up, direct comms to race control. And we're just sitting there. We've got information. We've got a couple of monitors with a live feed, GPS data. We've got a track map with every location of every car on track, including medical and safety car. And accident data, we've got something called the ADR, which is when an accident happens, that information streams immediately via telemetry to our car. So we know it'll say car 18, and then it'll give a threshold, like, was it 30G, was it 37G, was it 15G? It'll give us a report above 9G, but we don't bother doing anything unless it's 15 or above, basically. I think there's a requirement that they've got to see a doctor if it's above 15G, but most of them now, they'll walk away from a 30G accident. And then the key thing is with that, it's just a number. Yep. The accelerometer is in the car itself. So the car can cop a 30G shunt, which seems like a big shunt. And this is probably a good, what's the big, we've all had recorded accidents. What's the biggest shunt you've had?
I've had a couple at 52 and 54.
That's big, mate. And what about you?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know?
No. The cars I've shunted big time weren't...
Smooth as butter. He's never crashed before. He's never made a mistake.
I've crashed plenty of times, but I just don't know how many G it was.
I think I've had a couple of in the 40s, but no, I've never exceeded 50. But even though the car
depends
records...
on what you hit, I think.
But this is the thing.
Bathurst hitting, I had the steering fail at the grate, and that was over 50, I think, because it was concrete and it was side on, whereas the G, I had the Tasmania crash. That was only 30.
Yeah.
So that looked more spectacular, but because you have the crumple zone in the front, so I think depending on where you hit, it can absorb quite a bit of the impact before you feel it.
Mate, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, and it does come down to how they hit. The accelerometer can provide a number, but it is just a number. If they go in front, back, if it's vertical, like quite often it's really common in open wheelers to have compression fractures of the lower...
From going backwards.
More from when they clip a wheel, they go up and they slap back down. Yep. When you slap back down in open wheeler, when you're in that awkward, you're doing plenty of open wheelers, your feet are up in the air just about, you get a compression fracture. So compression fractures of vertebra is really, really common. So it can be seemingly, and we've had plenty of accidents where a driver has needed some sort of medical attention and they haven't actually tripped the threshold. Like it could be just a copper hit to the head even with a halo, like things can sneak through the halo. Maybe something gets in their eye. And then some of the most spectacular ones that you see, I think about, everyone talks about rollovers and how spectacular. You think about Fab's accident at Bathurst, which is the one that gets played over and over again. You had that big one at Barbagallo, going down the hill. That was quite a big one as well. They look spectacular. But you're slowly kind of dissipating energy in a rollover. So shit's flying off everywhere. But the worst thing, the ones that hurt the most, as we can all attest to, is when you hit something inanimate with some velocity. So we get that information when we're sitting there. But full circle back to what I was talking about, the trust that we have amongst ourselves. So my role when we get deployed, so using that George one as an example, second last lap, and I'm end of the race, I'm starting to think about cracking open one of these things. Celebrating the race is over, and bloody George goes and ruins it all.
How dare he?
You'll blame Fernando. He copped a penalty for that one, didn't he?
Yeah,
brake checking or something. Right. I think that was questionable, but anyway, just my opinion.
Controversial, Carl.
I know.
I agree. I think he checked him up.
Yeah, but... anyway, whatever. Fernando's one of the best drivers on the grid and an all-round good bloke.
Oh, wait, so you don't think he did check him up?
I think he did.
Yeah.
But I think George didn't handle it that well.
I don't think he. I think he.
Fernando did it on
he
purpose.
outsmarted him.
Yeah, he outsmarted him, and George, in his call it inexperience, compared to the likes of Fernando, just flipped out and went wide, tripped over, and ended up rolling. So we get deployed, and I'm going onto a live race track, and this is one of those surreal moments for me. So they'll go standby medical car, and I'm in gear, lights are on, I'm ready to basically launch control from pit exit. They go deploy medical car, and I know nothing other than what I've seen on the screens at this point. So they deploy us, and then they give us a location, corner number, driver's left, driver's right, and how many cars are involved, and any other information that could assist us before we get there. So we get to the scene, and we already have a lot of information. We've got the accident data, we've got the corner number, how many cars are involved, whether the driver's moving or not. They'll tell us, as we're approaching. So we lose the feed as soon as we leave. We've got a wireless signal where we're positioned at pit exit. Yeah. So for that one,
don't have KO or anything.
His phone's on the dash. He's got a quad lock mount.
You need a quad lock.
I need a quad lock mount so I can get onto a KO. I need a good VPN though as well when I'm overseas so I can keep the KO alive. So I get to the scene and you're seeing this accident for the first time, and you're trying to make sense of it. There's no guidebook that you can read. You've just got to think. You've got to make quick decisions and good decisions immediately, and so much to consider. How close do you park to the car? Your car acts as a block to it protects the doctors that are getting out of the car. But if there's risk of fire, you don't want to be too close. And I've got all sorts of equipment in the back of the car. We've got jaws of life, as they're affectionately known. They're the cutting devices, Halmatro. So they will literally cut through the titanium halo if we needed to. They'll cut through Armco. They'll cut through pretty much anything. And we've got fire extinguishers in the back. We've got two different types of extinguishers, one for the driver, one for the car. Electrical safety equipment, because the cars are all hybrid. They're 1,000-volt systems now. So we need to protect ourselves first and foremost. So I turn up at the scene. So I leave pit exit and I'm on a live Formula One race. It's, I exit... I go through turn 1, turn 2, check my rear vision mirrors, and Oscar's behind me. I've got this bright orange McLaren in my rear vision mirrors.
And you started pulling away, didn't you?
I did, mate, I did.
You dropped him.
It's all that practice curb striking at Silverstone.
Exactly. But then you've got to ask yourself the question, do you let them by or not? I've got to give them the green light, like what Bert does when there's when he's got to wave people through. And sometimes sometimes they just dive bomb you. And the crazy thing is about F1's, you can look in your rear vision mirror and have nothing there, and then 2 seconds later you look and they're on your bumper. You cannot believe how fast they are. And we're not fucking around. You're doing
200 yourself.
At Baku in the Aston last year, hit 275 kilometers an hour down the straight at Baku. It's Monaco's slow. Did Monaco? I've done 2 or 3 years on the trot at Monaco. It's amazing circuits like Spa. We're 250k an hour depending on the car. We're not messing around. So there's a lot of decisions you've got to make quickly, and then you get around the corner and you finally get the vision of the incident. You see George upside down. There's shit everywhere. There's debris. There's marbles on the track, but at the same time, it's a live race. It hasn't been red flagged, so I've got awareness of if it's a red flag situation or double waved yellows, and it's just double waved yellows at this stage. So I'm starting to think about, okay, there's live cars that are on the track that are going to pass us. So I've got to position the car in a way that protects the scene so the doctors can get out safely, but I don't want to block the track at the same time. I want to get close enough, but not too close. And this is all happening in the 10th of a second.
As you're approaching it.
So I park up in a way, I angle the car in a way that protects the docs. They get out of the car, George gets out, we take him off to the medical centre, but I jump out of the car as well. Sometimes I'll get out to help if it's a rapid extrication or if there's some sort of communication issue or whatever. You've just got to think quickly. Sometimes I'll just stay in the car for a quick getaway. But I'm standing there with my door open, and even though the F1 cars it must have been a VSC, so they're at was it 60% pace? But 60% pace through turn 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Mate, they're coming past me at, 170 kilometres an hour, like this far away from me. So you've got to have very clear thinking, basically.
Yeah. Well, and they have hit medical cars in the past.
Oh, back in Brazil, I think it got hit, and one fenced it at Monaco, 20 years. It's been a long time, but and
we all know as race car drivers, you race to the safety car line, you race to pit lane, and if even the VSC, you're making sure you make up the time where you can. Like when they put the 80k into supercars, you're trying to do 80k through the corner because. So in a corner that's a 50, you're trying to get as close to 80 as you can. So you're always still trying to chase lap time.
You can get a gain.
If you can get a gain anywhere, they're trying to get it.
100%. You're still competing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you have to maximize everything you've got. So I put myself in their shoes and completely get it. But it's not until afterwards that you reflect on it. And we do really thorough debriefs, really honest debriefs with ourselves.
Hunters, I just want to take a moment to thank one of our fantastic supporters, Shaw & Partners Financial Services. Shaw & Partners are a leading national investment advice and wealth management firm. They act for and on behalf of individuals, institutions, corporates, charities, and family offices. So, if you're looking for advice or assistance with investments or strategies, look no further than Shaw & Partners Financial Services. With a 35-year history and 8 offices strategically placed all over Australia, their financial advisors are within reach and ready to provide tailored solutions and advice. For more information, follow the link in the description of this podcast. Back to the show.
What I love about this team, between the 3 doctors, and there's myself and Bruno Correia, who's the Formula E safety car driver. So he does all of the Formula E races as well. And then he jumps into the medical car for the other 10 races that I don't do in the season in Formula One. Ripping bloke. I got to meet him in Baku last year. He actually replaced Bernd, who was not allowed to. This is a funny story. Bernd's not missed a race in basically 26 seasons. And he's got twin boys that are 7 years old. And it was his kid's first day of school. And he was like, Formula One comes first. And the race director at the time, Niels goes, Bernd, so I'm not going to do a German accent because I suck at it, but
give it a go.
Bernd, so days in your life that you cannot miss, and this is one of them. You cannot miss your kid's first day of school. And
that was pretty
You nailed that, by the way.
Did I?
Yeah, no, well done.
I thought it was going to be like a war German. Oh my God, where's this story? It's going to be, this could go either way.
So,
very good.
So Niels has said, mate, you can't miss your kid's first day of school. So you are not coming to Baku. Bruno will come in and cover you. And the compromise was that Bernd turned up on the Saturday morning and still did the race on Sunday. But he got to be there for his kid's first day of school. Oh, mate, couldn't come sooner.
I don't want to forget this one because it's actually come up already in our Patreon as well. How do you go from racing full time to then getting this gig?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a load of people that are drivers that are coming to the end of their career going, wonder what the lifespan is on a medical car driver, because that's a good gig. I mean, hey, I've got a lot of free time, so I might be your comp. But no, how do you get that gig? Yeah. Sound check.
Sound check, very important.
Very important. It's crime talk over it.
Sound check.
Crisp, isn't it?
So crisp. So I mentioned driving the car is the easy part. It's that I've spent a lot of time in race control over the last 10 years. So it's sort of an awareness of how the communication works in race control. I've done a lot of work in risk and safety management over the last 10 years as well. So I think I apportion more to risk and safety and communication than I do to the driving part of it.
Right.
So how it actually came about though, my predecessor, I competed against Alan van der Merwe, is the guy's name, South African born, lives in Europe now. He was a Honda BAR Formula One test driver. He actually holds the world land speed record in a Formula One car. Very cool gig that he got. When I was living with him in the UK, when I was racing British F3, 05, 06. So I lived with Alan. And then he was the South African A1 GP driver when I was in the Australian car. We had the best time. We travelled all around the world, and those cars were just unbelievably fun cars, like agricultural in a way. Like there was a rawness to them. You just had to, unlike most open wheelers where there's a finesse that's required. Those things you just had to grab them by the scruff of the neck. So we travelled around the world together, and he became a very good mate of mine. Charlie Whiting, the then 2009, I'm talking, race director, he ran into Alan at an airport and he said, "Mate, I'm so glad I've run into you. We need a new medical car driver for Formula One. I'm talking to you and Alex Wirtz. Is this something you'd be interested in?" And Alan was kind of at the tail end of his career and super intelligent guy. He's trained as a software developer and he's done a lot of different things. Very clever bloke. He got the call up and was doing it for the best part of, I think he did like 13 or 14 seasons or something like that in the end. But he, with the doctor, created this biometric glove that all the F1 drivers have been wearing the last few years. It's got pulse, oximetry, motion, and they had to do all the rigorous, destructive testing that needs to take place for anything that's fire resistant, all the genomic stuff that we wear. And basically the idea behind this glove is that not only do we get the accident data from the car, the accelerometer, when we turn up to the scene of an incident, we already know what the pulse is, the oxygen is, whether the driver's moving or not.
Wow.
So it's fascinating stuff. And
sorry to jump in, do you prioritize a driver you would go to first based on those metrics or not?
You've got to weigh everything up, mate. You look at it, so the perfect example, Baku last year, F2. So we cover F2 and F3 as well as F1, I should mention that. So I'm on standby for every F1, F2, F3 practice, qualifying and race. So it's a fucking big weekend when it's the triple. But I don't cover F1 Academy or Super Cup, which is why I jump in the safety car for Bernd. And part of that reason is if Bernd ever gets sick, I at least have some awareness. I can fill in Bernd's role. Baku last year, F2, big pile up it was a race start. Someone stalled it. We start at the back of the grid. Launch control, we take off, and there's just the shit hits the fan. There's stuff going on everywhere. You're trying to make sense of it. There's a car, if I remember, there's a car in the wall over here on fire. There's a car upside down over there, and there's another car involved. There's 3 cars, and there's debris everywhere. I'm trying to protect the car from punctures and things like that, so I'm sort of trying to navigate through. It's like a minefield out there. And we've got the information, the ADR. The F2 drivers don't wear the biometric glove, but between what you see and the data that you get, you need to make quick and executive decisions. And the guy that was on fire, I could see in my rear vision mirror that the fire was already on their way. I'm like, by the time I get out and grab an extinguisher, they're going to be on the scene. Oh, mate, here's self-extricating. He's getting out of the car. But this guy over here, upside down, he's not moving. Yeah. So with all that information, it actually came back to a quick assessment and good comms between myself and the doc that we went to the driver that was upside down. And true to form, he was the one that actually needed to go to the medical centre. So with all the information in the world, it helps you make better decisions, but you still have to, you can't rely entirely on the data and the information.
Experience and intuition a little bit there.
Yeah.
On your experience, leaning on your experience. You've seen enough crashes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Risk assessment.
Been there, done that.
I'm not saying for you personally, but like even
mate, I've had some shunts.
Well, actually, the fire is probably the biggest one.
Well, exactly.
In supercars that everyone, I don't know if anyone in here or listening is familiar with the Barbagallo fire in supercars was actually you got rear-ended.
I got rear-ended.
And really, they redesigned the cars based on that accident.
Yeah, they did.
Moved the fuel cell.
I've got to say, it's one thing I love about our sport in general, whether it's Formula One, supercars, even at a club level, there's this constant strive to be better from a safety perspective. You look at the sport now compared to what it was 25 years ago or 10 years ago even, it's better now for it because they learn from their mistakes. Not every sport's like that. I look at sports like sailing, a very traditional sport. Statistically, probably have more injuries and deaths in sailing every year than they do in motorsport. But they're like, it's not perceived as being a dangerous sport. So I don't know. We're kind of fortunate in a way. But so Van der Merwe, the ex-Medcar driver, he created this amazing technology. And before you know it, he's getting a few knocks on the door from government agencies, let's just say, like, hey, tell us more about this technology. We're quite curious about it. And Alan's kind of seen this amazing opportunity to grow this business further, get into, defense basically. And he called me up. It was 2018. He called me up mid-season and he goes, mate, I've got this amazing opportunity to grow this business, this biometric business. I need to be involved in Formula One to keep developing it. But the catch-22 is I've got no fucking time. I've got no time to grow this business. So the only way forward that I can see working is if I share the role. And if I'm being really honest with you, the only person I'm prepared to share the role with that I can think of is yourself. Would you be interested? And I think it took about 3 or 4 hundredths of a second before I responded. With
what an opportunity.
Yeah, with a big fat yes. But that was 2018. I didn't do my first season in F1 until 2022. So he said, mate, it's not as simple. The fact that you're on board, that's fantastic, but it's a process. This is the FIA. 2019 started, Charlie Whiting passed away in Melbourne and Massey took the reins. Alan had some precursor kind of conversations with Charlie, and then Michael came on board, and I've got a great relationship with Michael. Throughout the 2019 season, he kind of sold the idea, and he saw the value. Michael made the decisions at that point. And Michael was doing everything, like such an incredible human being. What he was doing, the load that he was taking on, just incredible. He said, mate, this is important. The fact that we have a backup is a good idea. Let's do it for the 2020 season. So I turn up at the Australian Grand Prix 2020, jump in the car with Alan, and it's kind of a handover weekend. I was going to go to Bahrain and wherever else the next weekend because F2 and F3 were there. He'd do F1, I'd do F2, and, I'd take a third of the season off him. And COVID happened Friday the 13th of March 2020. It was the world changed, and
that's right at the track.
At the track, it was quite surreal. I don't know if you guys
we were at the pub.
I was in the car. No, I was in the car, and I got told to get out because we put our helmet and everything.
You were ready to go,
and our race was about to start, and they said, "Hang on," they postponed our race, and we got told to get back out the cars and
done and dusted.
So I went straight to the pub with Barbs, and
I was at the Middle Park.
That was
pub.
it.
And we just got absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree.
It was my phone call, mate.
Well, I'm surprised.
Maybe I was
that's
there.
awkward.
Maybe I was there.
Yeah, I think there's a few of us.
Yeah. So I was at the press conference and we parked up in Melbourne, as we all know, for the better part of 2 years. And then end of 21, Alan left F1. Massey, we all know what happened with Michael, rightly or wrongly. And I think everyone's got an opinion on it. I think he was a bit under-supported in his role. But anyway, the two people
it is tough, isn't it? That's a holy heck. That gets a lot of engagement. That one,
Yeah.
It certainly
That's a talking
does.
point for sure forever.
Yeah.
I think.
I think he was replaced by 7 or 8 people, which goes to show how many roles, how many hats he was wearing in that organisation at the time. I think someone had to
go, I think, at that point. But you're right. Like, that says a lot. When so much changes for that role, it shows that maybe it wasn't the individual. It's like replacing a driver when the car's a shitbox.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's a lot of things that go into the performance of every role, whether it's a driver or a mechanic or,
And there's so much more
everyone,
to it.
and especially in that role, I mean, running what he was.
And you've got people in your ear, you've got, at that point in time, the team managers could communicate directly with the race director.
It is wild at that level.
TV sitting above everything. Sorry.
His name, like, everyone knew who Massey was. And unfortunately that amplifies in that situation. There's all of a sudden, like, everyone rightly or wrongly puts the accountability on one person's shoulders. And in that one person, it's almost like, regardless of the outcome, has to go.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do you do now? That's so damaged that, it's a shame how that all went down. And every angle, it was a shame.
It was so divisive as well because you had British media, Sky Sports feed, and we all know how biased they can be. And I've had good chats with
as biased as Elliot with Oscar.
Well,
we're trying to rival how biased they are.
Yeah, we're just doing what they do, but we back the Aussies and the Kiwis.
We're like, fuck it, we only go for Oscar.
They've got a good recipe, don't they? I had breakfast with Crofty in Singapore last year, and I asked him point blank. I said, mate, I understand the bias, but if you're going to pick between Lando and Oscar, this is Singapore last year, who's your bet? He said, mate, between you and me, it's pretty hard to go past Oscar. Oscar's he's the man. Yeah. So while there's that bias there, the British bias,
it's the audience they're talking to. I feel like
but
sometimes it's difficult.
Can you blame them?
No.
I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's, we get
What their customers want, they're feeding.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
nearly like they forget though how far they reach.
Yeah.
because it's everything we listen to here in Australia, and right now we have an Australian
and
potential,
it gets under our
potential world
fucking
champion.
skin, like, yeah.
I know, like on the weekend in Austria, all they talked about was, I mean, Oscar qualified third, and they were saying, "Wow, this is even Karun. This is the moment he's really fumbled, under the pressure. He needed to bounce back. Like he needed to."
He didn't get a lap.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
He didn't get a lap. Yellow flag thanks to his...
They tried to almost humanize Lando by saying Oscar's third this weekend. That's pretty average. You're like, fuck, the bloke's never qualified worse than fourth this year.
Yeah, exactly. But then... we're on it now. Let's talk about Austria.
I'm going to have a piss first.
You're going to have a piss?
Yeah. You're allowed to have piss breaks here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What do we do in the meantime? We just keep chatting.
You guys keep chatting.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
keep.
Chat amongst
We
yourselves,
just do
guys.
the small talk.
Yeah. So I look at that, and you look at the pressure that Oscar put on Lando last night. It was sensational. And
I
to
reckon
have-
that was like transformative last night for Oscar. Like
Yeah.
I think that showed the dives he was trying to put on.
Yeah.
Because I thought, he's in second. Like, how much risk is he going to take? Because you can't rely on the points buffer because it's like, what is it, 6 points? No, it's more. It's 7.
It's 15 now.
But
I think.
between 25 to 18, is it for a win?
Oh,
in
it's
the
7
second?
points. Yeah, 25
Yeah,
to
so
18. 7 points. It's,
So you can't just finish second.
no.
And that's where I was like, fuck, he's having a go. Like, he was not settling for second. So I think-
No way.
And I reckon Lando now would have felt that. I was a bit bummed they fucked the stops, and
Yeah.
it ruined the race a bit because
Yeah. It would have been nice if they'd pitted Oscar literally the lap after Lando. I reckon that would have worked quite well. But again, talking about the British media bias, like saying, all the pressure that they've kind of shifted it from a positive thing about Oscar and the pressure that he's putting on Lando and having a crack to, and look at Lando, he's not making any mistakes. He was making mistakes all the time. He dropped a wheel coming onto the straight. He went wide at turn 1.
Yep.
He went wide at turn 3 at the top of the hill there.
the only mistake I reckon Oscar made was passing him up into 2.
Yeah.
And losing DRS on the
100%.
exit. I felt like had he checked up and kept DRS for the exit, he might have had it.
And the second he did that, he knew it as well. He knew that, he wasn't going to get it done.
I saw his post-race interview and he said, I'm still analysing everything that's happened as they asked a question. And I was like, I bet that's one that he's thinking because even when he got the pass, as soon as you saw the flap open on Lando's car,
Game over.
you're like, fuck. And he would have, it's hard because you don't know if the moments will present themselves again, I think, in Formula One because of the aero wash and the way the races play out. It's like when there's a moment, sometimes I feel like it's not like touring car racing where you can battle like that for 70 laps.
Yeah.
Formula One, the field sprint, we saw 6 seconds was the gap after the first stop. So, like, you don't know that you're going to get those shots
Close
again.
enough. Yeah.
So I think they take what they can get sometimes. But, yeah, he'd look back and in hindsight, that's one hell of a superpower that would be. But
That was his opportunity, though, right there. And then the second attempt where he kind of got critiqued for it by one of the team members. I don't think that was like he was in control of the car. He might have pinched a front right going down into the corner there.
I feel that was a fuck up.
It was ambitious. It was never going to pull it off, but I think it was more about putting pressure on Lando.
I think he was just trying to rattle Lando.
Just rattle him.
Trying to force him into a mistake.
that potentially ruined the front right, though. When they tried to get long, I agree. I think that flat spot, I think it
came back to bite him.
We've all had them before.
Yeah.
You lose more lap time than you think you are because when you're loading the front tyre and it's shuddering, it's skidding across the road and you're not able to carry speed in the high speed. And that, I reckon, without that lockup, it would have been interesting if going longer would have been okay. Yeah. Because I'm interested to know how much he lost.
Because the deficit was huge at the end of that. Once he eventually pitted, it was 5.5, 6 seconds almost.
Yeah.
And he kind of bridged it back again and then came in strong. I loved hearing the Lando conversation, like Lando on the defense massively.
Asking
like,
about why he was slower.
Why is Oscar so much faster than me? And like, it's all in the high speed, mate. It's all in the high speed. Like,
and he gets in his head so much. He said straight away, "Is he just faster than me everywhere now?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude.
And his engineer even said, just don't overthink it. We think it's traffic. And then the next lap, I think he brought it back down within a tenth.
Yeah.
But he's definitely...
he's rattled, mate. He's rattled.
Sound check.
It is fun to chat just to roll straight into it, as normally how the pod rolls, that Barb's disappeared for a P15S, but we might as well just keep going. I think when Barb's told me last week that you could come in, I thought this is awesome because I've been waiting to hear about the medical stuff and how you got the role, and now everyone's got a bit of insight into you. And now the biggest thing is we started this pod because we just chat shit about motorsport.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be able to chat about Austria as well as a bit of the championship with you and see what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're as biased as we are being Aussies, but the Austria Grand Prix was, I thought, a surprise. That first stint, we did our predictions before the Grand Prix, and I thought there'd be the switch between the Ferrari and Oscar, but I did not expect Lando to challenge Oscar as much as he did in that first stint.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Yeah, it was. I think Oscar into turn one, I could have seen that from a mile away. He had every intention of getting past Charles into turn one. And he had a crack into at Lando up the top of the hill there into the hairpin as well. It was good to see. Yeah, you know who hasn't been spoken about enough from the weekend and completely skipped over? Lawson. How good was his performance? And he's such a ripping young fella. Like he's, I think he's deserving of being there, but he's had the wind taken out of his sails massively by that whole Red Bull team. And from all accounts, not my opinion, what I hear is it can be a pretty toxic environment. I mean, we can all see that from the outside in, and I'm sort of privy to that. I get to see it a little bit, more up close and personal. And I have conversations with Liam every weekend that I'm there. And it's just awful how he was treated.
Yeah,
it just spat out the other side, and we all know it's clear. The car is a terrible car.
Well, finally, they're acknowledging it in commentary. Yeah, Crofty. I think it was Crofty last night. Did you hear him really get aggressive and be like, "They need to fix this car"? Like Yuki, he actually said Yuki in the Racing Bulls would be where they are.
Yeah,
he's now a grid filler, getting lapped, running into things because he's desperate now too.
It's a desperation, and when that creeps in as a driver, but when you're not enjoying yourself, back to our conversation from earlier, he's having a shit time there. Yep. He's not enjoying himself. He's desperate with everything he's done, and he's made a lot of mistakes, a lot more mistakes in the Red Bull than he has in the RB.
Desperation.
In Saudi, we picked him up from the last hairpin. He just clipped an apex. It's just so much pressure. Pressure's not a bad thing, but I think the most amount of pressure should be from yourself, in my opinion. And any good driver out there, they'll always acknowledge that the most amount of pressure from anywhere is, on themselves. But I think it's just horrendous, that whole environment at the moment. Max isn't happy, of course.
Yeah.
Do you know what, though? I reckon the only, and I'm pissed off that we'll never realise this, but the only person, in my opinion, and maybe there's a bit of Aussie bias and particularly West Australian bias, the only person that I think could handle that Red Bull almost as good as what Max does is Daniel.
I might be the only Aussie that actually disagrees.
You disagree? Okay.
I do.
For what reasons?
Well, he joined Red Bull at a time, like he was a rookie really with Verstappen was, and I don't think he had really hit his straps in terms of consistency and being able to deliver his outright speed on a regular basis. So across a season, I think if Max was Max today versus Daniel then, because Daniel really was at the point in his career, I mean, it was probably still earlier in his career than where Max is now, but Daniel was at his peak. He was operating. He was able to go out and deliver laps based on confidence and not doubting his ability. But Max was still very green, raw speed. When he put his lap together, he was 0.3 clear of Daniel.
Yeah.
And I think that we're seeing every week now. He doesn't really ever under-deliver on a qualifying lap. And that 0.3 we saw on his special days, I think is every day now. And so I think if you compare apples with apples in terms of their career and where they were at, I reckon today it'd still be the death seat for Ricciardo to get into. I don't know that he'd be that much closer.
I don't think so. I should have been clearer. I don't think Daniel would be competing with Max, but I think of all the people that they've put in that second seat, I think Daniel would do it.
What about Albon?
That's an interesting one.
He did too bad by the end. Remember, he got a podium. He was at Austria. He would have got a podium there. He nearly won. He would have gone on to win. Was it Brazil? I think he turned.
Possibly, yeah.
He turned Hamilton, and I thought he was.
He did a good job, and he's doing such a good job in that Williams when it's not falling to pieces.
It's a fun debate, though, isn't it? Because Perez was first half of a season, at one point, he was leading the championship against Max.
Yeah.
That's why I just don't know
What the
if
hell has happened?
you'll ever know because of the environment and because of you just don't know what they're getting.
Yeah.
By the end, Perez was nowhere.
I'm going to get maybe a little bit technical here. Hope we don't lose anyone, but what?
You might lose me. Don't get too smart.
No,
My eyes closed, just tap me on the shoulder.
wake me up when it's done. But everyone talks about Max loves a strong front end in the car, right? Where I think anyone that watches the sport at all knows that he likes a strong front end. And I think that's the kind of the undoing of most other teammates. I spoke to Liam last year. He did a back-to-back test day at Monza. It was a Pirelli tyre test, and he was talking about the differences between the RB and the Red Bull. And he had a massive moment, lost it at one of the Lesmo curves, went off and didn't hit anything, but beached the Red Bull.
Right.
He said on a single lap, if your confidence was high and everything was kind of working, it was faster. But the RB over a stint was so much easier to drive. It was just on a knife edge every time. And I've had good chats with Daniel and people around him. And where Daniel struggled in the McLaren when he jumped into it is he was a seat of the pants. He's like, the new generation drivers have all come from a major foundation of sim racing, right?
I know where you're going.
Sim racing. So they don't rely on that feel and
Great point.
And so Daniel's jumped into this McLaren and just kind of lacked the feel for that last couple of tenths of a second. And where Lando was just like, this is just like driving a simulator for me.
Yeah.
And I think about the front end that the Red Bull's got at the moment. And Daniel used to love a strong front end in those sort of mid 2010, sort of 2014, 2015 kind of years. I think the way that he drives, he would actually quite like the feel of that Red Bull and it would give him confidence rather than take away confidence. But in any car that he drove that Renault and the McLaren, of course, and if he doesn't have the feeling, the feedback through the steering wheel, that's where his confidence is just knocked about. So
I see what you mean. I think I misunderstood. Yeah, I do agree. You're right. So it's the liking the front end, liking the point. Yeah, actually.
But it's
I do agree with you. Actually, I think I don't
think he'd be giving Max a run for his money, but I think he would be the best of the rest to jump in that second seat. And unfortunately, we're never gonna. We can speculate till the cows come home, but I think I think he's done his dash and he's happy to call it a day now.
It's enjoying to speculate though and have these conversations.
It is.
It's always that's what we do.
I also want to see Max jump in an RB and see if he can stick that thing on pole.
If you were,
do you know what I mean? Like if Liam's qualifying 6 or Yuki was 6 in an RB, what could Max do? Because we all rate Max.
Mate, it begs the question. I would pay good money to see that.
That's been the other hypothetical.
I'm going to have a chat with Dr. Helmet and say, mate.
If you could tee that up, that'd be great.
See what I can do.
That's been a hypothetical thrown around a bit where I wonder what he would do in that.
Yeah.
Or if he is just getting the most out of it because he loves that front end and he would struggle in a lazier car or something. I don't know. But isn't that one that would be amazing to see? Because like Liam, I know he didn't get his second lap, Max, but Liam did qualify really well on the weekend. Like you said, I got overlooked. I mean, he qualified 6th on the weekend.
Yeah.
Finished 6th with a one-stopper, made that work.
One stopper, that's pretty ballsy.
Yeah. So it is. It would be interesting to see him do a car swap. But I mean, I love hearing Max on the radio say how this thing is undrivable. I said this once to a teammate. We're in a debrief, and he said, I won't say who it is, but he said,
throw him under the bus.
This car is. He was like, this car is undrivable, and I thought it was funny. But I was like, and yet you drive it. Like, how do you keep saying it's undrivable yet you're pole position in Suzuka when you're blowing up? You're like top 4 still. I mean, the gap is big. But the McLarens are in another planet.
He's a fucking genius, Max. Honestly, he's the best driver on that grid, hands down, in my opinion. Still, he's struggling with that car at the moment. I think Max is it's him and Oscar basically for me, and then I actually put Fernando in the mix as well.
I do.
An old bloke, 43 years old, and he's loving life. He's just happy to be there, you know. You have interactions with these guys, which is maybe there's some fun stuff to talk about there. Like you do interact with these guys, and some of them ignore you because they're too cool for school. But Fernando's the type of bloke he'll always walk past you and give you a little cheeky fist bump on the way through. He respects what you do, and he's just loving life. And I tell you what. Again, back to that conversation around enjoying what you do. He's enjoying what he does, And I think he's doing a good job. I'm fascinated to see what happens next year with Adrian Newey at the helm of the aerodynamic side of things. And I had a factory tour last month, actually earlier this month, I should say. Still June, isn't it? June 30?
Yep.
Yeah,
Last day.
Submitted your tax yet, mate?
Oh, absolutely. Straight onto it.
I
need every cent I can back.
I definitely haven't.
Earlier this month, I had a full factory tour of Aston Formula One team. It's the newest facility of all of the Formula One teams, and it's bloody incredible. And Adrian's wandering around, and he's such a analog kind of guy. Like, everyone talks about the sketches and stuff, and they said, "Oh, that's Adrian's office over there," and he's got this big, whiteboard there, and he just scribbles stuff on it, and he's going around to people's desks. And I just saw him wandering around, just chatting to people. Like, he's about as old school as they come. He's a genius as well. So that's going to be an interesting combo next year, I reckon.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he can do there.
Where's your gut tell you the Max is going?
Aston.
Because they came out and said, though, he's contracted till 28, or was it 27?
Yeah, but there's clauses.
But that's what I mean. They're trying to say, like, no, he's not going anywhere, but they always do. But I think there's good, there's plenty of smoke where there's fires out. I think.
This is fun.
What do you think?
I'm with Barbs. I think he's going to Aston.
Mm-hmm.
You got Lawrence Stroll at the helm of that team. He owns the team, and for him, it's business. Yep, his son is there. We can talk about Lance if you like, but there's not much to say there.
He seems like he's checked out anyway.
He's checked out. He doesn't want to be there.
He's checked out.
He doesn't want to be there. And with all due respect, like he did well in junior formula. You don't win he won an F3 championship, didn't he?
Yeah.
You don't win an F3 championship without having a bit of talent. But he doesn't have the mongrel. There's no mongrel in him because he's had everything. Again, I'd say this in front of him, like respectfully, he's had everything on a silver platter his entire life. He's never had to fight for anything before. You look at every one of those guys on the grid, whether they've come from a wealthy background or otherwise, at a certain point in their career, they've had to fucking fight,
get the drive
for something.
Yeah.
Put it on the line. There's a mongrel that they all have that Lance just doesn't have, and it was certainly not there at the moment. So I think Lawrence is looking at it from a business perspective. He's built this new factory. He's got Adrian Newey, the best in the business. If he can deliver Max, he'd probably go to the Saudis, Aramco, and say, hey, are you interested in buying this Formula One team and sell it at a peak? He bought it down here. It's a business transaction at the end of the day.
Win a championship, sell it for a bundle.
Yeah.
Go live on his yacht. Sounds good to me.
So you reckon there's a possibility that he will sell to a Saudi buyer eventually? Someone with enough cash that could walk in and just give him the...
I think
the teams are worth ridiculous money now.
Me on the outside in my small role in Formula One, looking in, I look at it and think the relationship that they've got with Aramco, Aston Martin, as a car manufacturer and as a Formula One team, I think there's strong enough a relationship there and a desire from the Saudis to be more involved in Formula One. You look at the amount of money they're investing. They've got this brand new Formula One track that they're building at the moment. Yeah. They've got the Jeddah circuit, which is brilliant. I did that for the first time this year. It's a proper high-speed, old-school street circuit. It's unbelievable. Under lights, it's so special. I pinch myself, mate. All these fantastic F1 circuits. When I get out there for the first time, I'm a kid at a candy store. It's
and you're fortunate enough you get to actually rag the arse out of a car around these tracks,
and you win every lap.
Yeah,
no one else racing.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with it.
So you're always first.
Although Byrne's always in a faster car, so that's
but he's only cut second.
So we do a race start, and I've got all-wheel drive and he's rear-wheel drive. So every so often when we do the simulated race start, I'll be like, you know what? I feel like shutting Burnt down today. I'm going to do launch control today, and he can hear it. He can hear the bouncing off the limiter. And he knows straight away that he's got no hope at all for the first 60 metres at least, and then
you block him.
And then you chop his nose, prop on the brake.
It's fun. He always flicks me the bird when he goes past me.
Does he?
He does. Of course he does.
It's still very difficult to know who the best drivers in Formula One are.
Yeah.
Now Alex Dunn was one. Did you see him in FP1? Because
P4.
And within, is he just over a tenth off of Oscar?
It's a tenth and a half off Oscar in FP1.
I thought, so he's a young Irish lad. If anyone doesn't know, he races in F2 for Roden, I think, wasn't it? And I thought that was so impressive. So FP1, and I do really like how we've mentioned it in our pods with Supercar Chat, that they should do an FP1 for, whether it is co-drivers or testing people that they want to trial young drivers, because that kid, I think, open some eyes, because to be within a tenth and a half of the best driver in the world right now leading the championship was very impressive.
Was it Ollie Berman when he jumped in the Ferrari for that race?
Finished 7th on debut.
Like, and
that was huge.
This is where sometimes
still probably his best result, nearly.
Probably, yeah.
This is sometimes where it almost hurts them a little bit, because then you just go, as in the reputation, because you just go, well, is it all car? Or like if a guy can jump in, that's only done some sim work and stuff and be within a tenth of Oscar, who we all rate extremely highly.
It hurts them when they try and say they're all the 20 best drivers in the world, I think. If you don't say that, just appreciate that they have, fought and had all these attributes that got them to where they are, and they are one of the best. Great, but there's definitely plenty of other drivers that can do a similar job, I think. I think that's all it is. It shows us some elite drivers that maybe and may never get there. There's probably some fantastic drivers that...
Plenty of tradesmen out there that have been extremely good drivers, or they're doing whatever, working in offices or whatever, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, how many people did you race in your junior days that were like lights out quick, that just either gave it up or couldn't make it for whatever reason, and they were just so talented?
All think of a handful of people that could have, should have, would have, right?
Yeah. Well, he would have finished top 5, Alex Dunn, really.
Yeah.
In the Grand Prix. He would have been a top 5 runner easily.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have definitely been ahead of George Russell, who was 20 or 30 seconds behind the Ferraris.
Yep.
Likely to have been right on the back of Hamilton if he did an average job.
Yeah.
So it is this, who remembered, who forgot, comes back to that a little bit.
It's it's one of the...
He remembered.
Yeah, he remembered.
It is one, but saying that, like what he's done in F2 this year, I know there's been a bit of controversy with Alex. He upset a lot of his fellow competitors in Monaco. I think he's the one that caused that big pile-up.
Right. That's right.
And I got the feeling there wasn't a high degree of accountability off the back of that. I'll tell you what, when you arrive at the scene, so we get to the scene of the F2 accident, and I just park up. I'm like, where the fuck do I go? Like, it's a car park down at Turn 1 at Monaco. There's debris everywhere. There's cars everywhere. I've got it all on video. It's like, it's crazy. There's just stuff everywhere. But apparently he caused it, upset every one of his competitors. But he is unbelievably fast in that F2 car, that Rodin. We
debriefed that incident, and I actually said, remember, I watched the interview with him after, and I said, I didn't really know anything about him or who he was. And I said, the kid that caused the accident, I heard his interview after, and he took no accountability. And that is one thing, I think that drives you nuts as a competitor, where like someone's not reflecting on the incident and taking some responsibility for it. Yeah. You do just want answers too. You want someone to say, hey, I fucked up here.
There's nothing.
And I think team owners look at that too.
Yeah, team owners do. But then, like, saying that, you look at Kimi Antonelli taking out Max on the weekend. I heard some of his conversations afterwards, and he was apologetic, but I don't think he was accountable.
Yeah.
I think you can be apologetic but not be accountable. He was looking for excuses, saying this and that.
He said he locked a rear. It's like, no shit, but you weren't stopping anyway.
He goes, I didn't outbrake myself.
I didn't outbrake myself. Did you?
That's why I had to drink hard right and miss everyone, because he was like 20, 30 metres too deep. Yeah.
There's all these memes at the moment around, did Toto organise this?
I showed Scotty this before you actually arrived, the one like activate the clause in Max's.
I'll pop that in here. Now, what about Albon and Sainz? They're two drivers that I'm quite curious about at the moment, because Albon seems to have got one up a little bit on Sainz at the moment. They had a disaster, dual failure at dual DNF. But
generally speaking, Albon's had Carlos measure. At the start of the season, I gave Carlos benefit of the doubt because new team, there's a bit of, getting acquainted with the car, and they're all subtly different to drive, right?
New power plant too.
Yeah, new power plant. But off the back of last year, I mean, I thought it was bananas that they were getting rid of Carlos. I rated Carlos as top 3 or 4 in that championship. And then he goes to Williams, and Alex is kind of giving it to him. It's like, Jesus, I didn't think that would be the case at the start of the year.
That's why I still wish Albon was in a Red Bull. Like,
I guess you're thinking, doesn't it?
He did 6 months, I think, in Toro Rosso it was at the time. Then they put 6 months in Formula One. They put him in the main seat and then fired him again in 6 months. Like,
it's
I'd
brutal.
love to know what he could
You'd almost not want to be in the Red Bull Junior program. You'd be like, I just want to get picked up by anyone else, because like you're just so likely of.
Isn't that sad though? It's like one of the greatest, most successful programs for getting people to Formula One, but it has that stigma that follows it.
There's something in that. We talk. A lot of them have junior programs. Alpine obviously do. There's the Red Bull program. They all have an affiliate team in F2, of course, but some of them you just wouldn't want to be a part of. And at the moment, like Dr. Helmut Marko's done amazing things and he's got an eye for talent, but you got to question some of his decisions in the recent years. I hate to say it. And then Alpine as well, like how Jack was treated was a joke, but that's Flavio stepping in and flexing. But I think it was more of a commercial decision than anything else. I was led to believe that Franco came with in the vicinity of like $30 million or something to pay for that seat.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
It twists my arm.
Yeah.
I do it for a pint.
Okay then. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought
Isn't
Jack
that sad? That's
Jack
the sad
deserved
thing.
better.
Yeah.
We picked Franco up in Imola last month and he's making a lot of mistakes at the moment. He's under a lot of pressure, but he's not handling the pressure.
Yeah.
And he's not really performing, frankly.
They've extended his contract. He's on a race by race.
You would do if he had $30 million.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I will take your cash.
Yeah,
Take your
exactly.
cash.
But and even the race by race thing, when you look at the environment we talk about at the moment and how that affects drivers, mentally it's very difficult. And you start making low percentage moves because you are trying to survive and prove you deserve that seat.
Yep.
So you take every little opportunity to show something when really that's when mistakes creep in.
Yeah. So
that was Yuki, wasn't it? Like his move on Stroll was half-assed.
Yeah.
His move on Colapinto was half-assed.
Yep.
And to your point, you touched on it early, Carlos, like just because he's desperate, he's not happy, he's desperate, and you just start driving like shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the first time I'd seen him do a post-race interview and say, I just don't know why I'm so slow now. And I'm making it was a mistake. He acknowledged those mistakes, but you could see he's like, it was almost like you could see that he's making them for a reason. He's like, yes, I made that mistake. And then he's like, I really need to just find out why I'm so slow.
But you guys both know, we all know how critical confidence is. It is everything. If you wake up on race day and your chest is out and you're feeling confident, you're going to drive the hell out of that car. And they've got this way of deflating their drivers. And in the past, it might have worked, but it's not working at the moment. They've got to look at what they're doing.
It happens a lot. Like, sorry, you go, Bob. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say on that, and that's probably why Max is a little bit immune to that. One, because he's a standout talent, but two, he just doesn't give a shit. Like his personality.
He doesn't give a shit.
Even when he was young, like you look at interviews from when he was karting, his personality is still similar to what it is today. And that was when he was in karts.
Yeah.
So I think he's lucky that, he's incredibly talented, but also his personality probably protects him a little bit from that, where other people that aren't like that will take that on board and start to, like you see it with even Lando now, start to doubt things or... So I think Max is probably...
He cops some shit though, Max. I guess from the British media as well. But he is the loveliest bloke. I think he's one of the drivers, in my opinion, that is so misunderstood. I think he's a gentleman. He is respectful. There's an abruptness, but I think it's more of a cultural thing. Yep. And he's pushing the envelope. I think you've got to respect the guy for what he's doing. The interactions I've had with him have all been, positive, good experiences. Been out, had a few drinks with him. He's a lovely guy. I think the British media, again, back to that conversation, they just they love to hang.
Oh, 100%.
Sells papers.
I know Shane talks to him a bit, and he said he's a great dude. But I think he's lucky that with his personality, he's more likely to not worry about what people think.
He doesn't affect him as much.
No, doesn't care.
Yeah.
Life's bigger than Formula One. I think he'd be the type of guy he'd happily walk away from it. You know what? It's not the end of the world. I don't live and breathe this. I love racing, but...
Well, there was a part of him I'd heard he was hoping for that band to come in so he could do his Spa.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is wild that he's like, I kind of was hoping I'd get that ban. I could go and do Spa. And then today they said, did you watch the race? And he said, no, I haven't seen the results. I was watching Spa.
Yeah.
So he just went in his van and watched that. I think I love that though. Like, I love that he can just switch off.
He's such a racer.
And he delivers.
Pure racer.
Yeah.
And he delivers. You never see him rock up in the designer outfits and things either. He's a racer. He's there to drive a race car. Doesn't do the movie premieres. He doesn't want any of that stuff. But talking about the race team and the impacts they have, I know you've been exposed to teams as well within supercars that it does play a big part. I think we're seeing it at the moment with, well, firstly, I guess my experience with Triple Eight now has really opened my eyes.
Oh, for sure.
I made a massive mistake last year. I crashed the car at Bathurst, and the way they dealt with me after that, it really changed it just opened my eyes to how things can be dealt with and how well a driver, being myself in that moment, can bounce back from a a bad moment if dealt with in the right way. And I just
let me guess, it was more of a supportive environment.
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, exactly.
It's totally ridiculous, and we've been in plenty of teams, and I think there's one team I can think of.
Well, Reynolds right now he comes to mind, and he's a driver. Not to cut in, I think we're probably all thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But he's the guy who does operate on confidence as well, and he's not on his own. I hate when people say he thinks, because people do use that against him in a way, I think, to make it a bit of a cop-out. So I think we all operate on confidence.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what level. As you say, whether you're a club level racer or it's your job.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling, as you said, if you wake up and you're not quite, if you're feeling it or not.
Yeah.
And if you're just kind of having a bit of a shit one, chances are you're not going to throw purples.
Yeah.
It's tough in supercars, isn't it, at that level? Because it becomes a job.
It's still the most competitive championship in the world, I think. I mean, Formula One, you look at time, I think the best assessment, you look at first to last lap times, and supercars consistently year after year is
5/10 at Darwin. That was with a wild card.
It's hands down the most competitive championship in the world. But Formula One has never been more competitive than it is at the moment as well. We're quick to forget that. It's probably a second from first to last. But yeah.
Other standout points from the race, Carlos, that you thought?
Sauber. Two of them in the top 10. Where has that come from? I take my hat off to them. They've done a good job over the weekend. And you just wonder if it's circuit by circuit. Like Mercedes.
Not bad for a C-grade driver. Did Helmut call Bortoletto?
That's
Bortoletto.
I think he called
it was good to see Bortoletto battling with his manager in Fernando.
Is Fernando his manager?
Yeah, he manages him.
Yep.
How about that?
That's pretty cool. And his manager taught him a lesson, though, because he did teach
I want to overtake him, but I don't want to upset him. And then even the battle between Liam and Fernando at the end of the race, because they've got a bit of history, but they were like high-fiving after the race and loving it. I've got to say, that circuit, it's a great circuit for racing with that back-to-back-to-back DRS zone. You've got the front straight, up the hill, and then back down the hill. It just leads itself to good racing. Yeah. But it brings the concept or the topic of artificial racing to light. Like, they've got to do something about the racing, don't they, in Formula One? You look at Monaco this year and you know that it's done on Saturday afternoon. Once qualifying's done, it's as long as you get to the first corner first, it's Again, challenging things. I like that they tried to mix it up again at Monaco with a number of pit stops.
Yeah, number of pit stops,
minimum 2 pit stops or whatever it was. I think it's good that they're challenging it, but there's a broader issue. The reason the racing's not as good as... You look at Formula E, I don't know if you guys watch a bit of Formula E. It's actually quite good racing, and there's some good operators there as well. Yes, bunch of Kiwis in there.
It's kind of like, mate of our...
Nick and Mitch.
Mate of mine with Mitch and, friend of yours with Cassidy. But I think that Formula E has ended up being a bit of a hunting ground for drivers that never made Formula One like IndyCar. So you've ended up with guys that, and we talked about it before, Formula One are all amazing drivers, but arguably there's drivers out there in the world that can rival them that don't get the opportunities or have the sliding door moments going their way.
Yep.
And they land in IndyCar and Formula E right now. Formula E is stacked. Like, it is a stacked field of very talented drivers.
Formula E to me has, I reckon, the best on any other category.
I agree.
As far as those single-seater drivers.
Felix da Costa, I think, is up there as one of the best guys I've ever raced against.
Yep.
Absolute gun.
Robert Frins is awesome.
Is Degrassi still racing, or has he pulled the pin now, more like team management sort of stuff? But again, he won Macau in 2005.
Battery powered though. I can't get
I know. But if you get past that...
Nah.
I would just put a bloody motor in the thing.
No, I can't get past it. Actually, someone said Elliot needs to stop calling them motors. They're electric. We call electric.
Combustion.
I was like, mate, I feel like every race car driver says, it's got a good motor in it, don't they? I think that's what I said to him. I'm like, drivers call engines motors all the time, mate. Relax.
Don't pull me up on that shit.
But I can't.
Technicality.
Pull me up on something decent, would you?
Technicality.
But I can't deal with. I just can't get around it. I said to Mitch in New Zealand, we had lunch. We do like an annual lunch every year, and a bunch of Kiwis. I said, mate, I can't get around.
Gee, Mitch was there on a Sunday night at Monaco. Actually,
he's a good dude.
Yeah,
he lives there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he lives there with actually.
Cassie lives there too, I think.
Yeah, very close to Max, and had a bit of a chat with the boys on the Sunday night. It's always good on the Sunday night of Monaco. It's always a good party.
What do you do?
I bet it's an expensive night.
It's expensive for someone.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good gig then.
Yeah.
What about the Ferraris? I felt like with the floor upgrades, they made good improvement on the weekend.
I was surprised. I thought they were going to fall by the wayside. I mean, Charles is giving it to Lewis still. But I think they're ahead of the Mercedes, that's for sure. I mean, the Mercedes seem to struggle a lot in the heat at the moment, and it was bloody hot there yesterday in Austria. What's next? Silverstone. You never know in Silverstone. It could be bucketing with rain. It could be anything. And then Spa, which would be 15 degrees. It's basically Melbourne weather.
And you'll be at Spa?
I'll be at Spa, and Budapest, which would be 40 degrees, ridiculously hot there always. It's one of my favourite places to go. It's such a great city, but the Hungarian fans just love Formula One. There's a rawness about it. If there's one European Grand Prix, like an underdog kind of event to go to, get to the Hungarian race. You will not regret it. It's so much fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing to circle back a little bit, but the biggest thing at the moment is the advantage McLaren have is that tyre wear. And I saw a funny quote today that I wanted to call out with the Horner. Have you seen his quote from?
No.
So he says, Christian Horner said, he's basically making love to his fucking exhaust pipe lap after lap and the tyres are not dying. That's their advantage. And I like when you go to a place like where it was hot, that track, they were in a league of their own. But then we saw Canada, the Mercedes was quick.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see at Silverstone because it's not typically the warmest of places.
No, it could be quite an interesting one, I reckon. But yeah, there's hotter environments. Those McLarens are just looking after them. The fact that first stint, they were actually racing. There was no conservation whatsoever. They were on it.
That's when you know a car is in its sweet spot, when it's producing speed and looking after its tyre.
Yeah.
You just know that it's a rarity. Just dialed in.
Yeah.
And you could see that Lando was sliding the rear off the exit, and I could see Oscar was finishing tight everywhere. I think if Oscar could clear him, he had speed.
I think so too.
All day. I reckon he would have broken the DRS. I think the reason, because I saw Lando said that the DRS is 6 to 7 tenths per lap, but I don't think that was the only reason he was able to follow that closely.
But the fact that Oscar in that last stint caught him like he was standing still.
Yep.
It took a little while, but he got there in the end. Lap traffic though, bloody lap traffic, that hurt him.
I know.
It was at Colapinto feeding.
Yeah.
You got to have some awareness, mate. He copped a penalty for it.
That was close.
And Oscar's quote during the race when he was on the radio, you saw that one?
Yeah.
Oh, that was so funny.
Alpine still find a way to try and fuck me.
Yeah,
mate, I got fired up last night watching it.
On that too, I made a note. I don't know if it was just me overthinking it, which can happen a little bit, or if it's actually happening, but it seems in the last couple of rounds, Oscar seems to have come out of his shell a little bit, just in some things he's saying in the press or on the radio, or just And I think it's great because we used to laugh. You'd think he was an accountant if you didn't know he was leading the Formula One World Championship. So stuff like that on the radio, I just noticed a bit of a change. I think that's good. It's
good. He's comfortable in his own skin.
It's like they've almost gone to him now. You've proven yourself. Now you can be. If you want to say something, go say it.
But he's still focusing on the right areas too, which is cool. And he doesn't sound on the radio like emotional or hyped up. He just says things like when he said about Alpine, it's almost like he's sitting here at the bar with us. And he's like, God damn, Alpine, still try and find a way to fuck me. And it's so casual, rolls off the tongue. You're like, dude, the guy's driving a Formula One car.
He's doing 300k an hour in the grass. He's like, this guy's still...
It was... And that I love that, though, because that means he's going to go to Silverstone and be in the same mindset. Whereas I reckon... we'll actually do a quick predictions. What do we think? Can Lando back up? There's going to be a lot of pressure on him at Silverstone. I think he's an envelope. I reckon he'll fold.
No, he'll bottle it. He will bottle it. You heard it here first. Lando's going to bottle it.
We like to do our predictions, Carlos, so we'll let you go first. Give us who you think's going to, this is for Silverstone, win, second and third.
Win will be Oscar. I'm going to say Oscar. I think Lando's going to bottle it in a big way. So I'm going to go, I think George would be P2.
Okay.
Yeah. And I cannot see the Red Bulls being fast there. I might be wrong, but the Ferraris, the way they're going, maybe Charles. So I'm going to go a completely different top three. That. So Oscar, George, and Charles.
What do you got, Scotty?
I was very close. I've got Lando completely bottling it as well. So I've got Oscar P1, Lewis P2, and Leclerc P3. I didn't really think about George though, and I think you're right. I reckon you might have me there. But anyway, that's my predictions. But the Mercedes, you're right, I reckon be pretty competitive there. Be more like Canada.
Yep.
Even those high speed corners.
I've got, and I've changed mine a few times here because I didn't want us to all.
You're not an overthinker, mate. What's happened to you?
I've gone Hamilton, George, Oscar. So Hamilton first, George second, Oscar third. I wanted to go Oscar win, but then I just thought I'll mix it up. And do you know, I had a theory behind that
Controversial.
too, because normally I'm wrong with this shit. So I'm like, if I say Oscar's third, he'll win.
Yeah.
So secretly, I'll be happy about that.
He did say earlier, he's like, he went to pick Oscar for the win. He goes, no, actually, he won't if I pick him. So I'm not going to pick him.
Yeah.
But Hamilton
will
I put him
rise.
there because I thought somehow
No, you're right.
he's like
Did
kissed
you like
on the
that?
dick
Yeah,
come Silverstone.
I'm regretting. Yeah,
I don't get it how he turns up at Silverstone and gets a result every year.
he does. I was there when he.
One with the puncture.
Yeah.
Like what?
We don't need air in your tyres, do you?
Yeah, like no one else. NASCARs can't even make it back to the pit lane without tyres.
That was.
I couldn't believe that. It shows how rigid those cars are low. Like to be able to still drive faster than a Formula 3 car around the track with 3 wheels on it.
It's mental, isn't it? Those cars are just
Insane.
freakish now.
Championship order has closed up a little bit after the weekend. So Oscar's still leading, thank God. 15 points in it though. Max Verstappen third. I think he's pretty much declared that his championship is done. I mean, the McLarens are so competitive, and we were blessed though. I think when Max went out, it allowed the two McLarens to race as if, if they DNF'd, it didn't really.
Yeah.
They raced which I think I loved. George is second. He's fourth, sorry. Leclerc fifth and Lewis is sixth. Antonelli seventh. I'm actually one of the only ones, I reckon, that has been underwhelmed by Antonelli.
I haven't been underwhelmed.
You're calling him out as like real fast, but I don't think his speed's even been that.
You compare all the rookies against each other.
Yeah, but he's in the Mercedes. Like you compare
Yeah, he's-
Lewis versus Alonso, because everyone's saying like George's experience. Remember when Lewis turned up and went against Alonso?
Yeah.
And I compare it to that because they're drawing
That's
the
such
parallel.
a good. That's a great
I
comparison.
will say I was disappointed at the gap he had to George in qual on the weekend. It was bigger than what it should. It was 5 points or something.
Mate, I'm actually with you. I'm with you. I think what a lot of people don't know or see is that Kimi did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of laps throughout last year in old F1 cars. Liam, by contrast, had no laps at all other than his race laps that he got. So they're out testing all the time. When you talk about support in a team, you talk about the Triple Eight experience. For me, Mercedes AMG Formula One team is the Triple Eight in that regard, in terms of supporting the drivers, nurturing them, giving them confidence and believing in them all the time. No matter how much they potentially fuck up on track, they've got their back. It's like, you know what? This is the driver we've chosen and we will support them.
Well, perfect examples. That was when Kimi did his first FP1 was it Monza, and he binned the car?
Yeah.
Like went out purple crash,
Parabolica.
and Toto was like, it's all good. We still believe in him.
Still
like,
did the announcement the next day. And he's back.
Where if that was Red Bull, Helmut would have thrown a spanner at you and you'd be out.
They probably would have delayed the announcement.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it would be that brutal.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think given everything that Mercedes AMG has thrown at Kimi, I would say he's probably underperformed a little bit as well. And then when you compare like your best comparisons to your teammate, and I think George has really had Kimi's measure all year. And George is driving well at the moment, but he makes a lot of mistakes as well. You saw that mistake at Singapore when Carlos won. That was a genius race by Carlos. That was 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
That was pretty special.
Big surprise in the championship, I think, is that Lawson has overtaken Yuki.
No way. Are you serious?
That's good.
So Liam is 15th and Yuki's 17th.
No.
10 points to 12.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And that's probably only going to get bigger.
That is wild.
How about that?
How about them apples, Carlos?
How about them?
And Colapinto is still duking it out with Jack Doohan on 0, which I don't think he's turned up. And you say the 30 million, I think that's definitely...
That's the biggest factor.
It's good to hear, I think, because, that was a shame how he was treated. And nothing has changed. The organic spacer hasn't made the difference
Like
there.
we said, do
you know what-
on a jukebox, not your driver.
You know what pisses me off the most about that situation with Jack is how loyal he was to that team. Like other people would jump ship and, go whether they think a more competitive car is going to be. Jack stuck it out as the reserve driver through thick and thin, finally got his call up. Like they gave him an opportunity off the back of his loyalty to the team. And as soon as he had the opportunity, there were questions around his performance and whether he would last the distance.
For the first round too.
Yeah.
First impressions mean too much in this sport sometimes.
Yeah, they do. Too much. I think there's way too much weight on first impressions. I get it in some respects, but the old saying, you're only as good as your last performance, I think it's a bit of a joke, really. You've got to look at a measured kind of approach to it. Yeah.
I agree. Before we wrap up, we did have a question come in here.
Yeah.
You might not know the answer. That glove you're talking about with all the biometrics in it, do you know what it costs?
I wanted to ask that, so that is a good question.
Yeah, it was a great question someone put in our Patreon earlier, and I've been sitting on that bad boy and I want to ask it before we end it.
Just throw a number out there, mate.
Mate, it's hard to...
It's like trying to put a price on an F1 car, I guess, R&D and everything involved.
It's hard to know. Like, you could probably go and... I could talk to Alan, you could go and buy one, but I just don't think it's...
And there's a question if you don't...
Elliot will be doing a marathon with one on next week.
I'll be like, Scott, how are my vitals on the phone? He's on the bike, follow me with some gels.
Elliot, you need some Viagra.
If you don't know the price of it, but do the teams have to purchase them, or did they give them to F1 to sort of understand it more? Like, do you know if they had to buy them, or did he provide them as a way of testing?
That's a good question. I think, look, there's the development cost of them, which was hugely expensive because you've got to go. It's got to integrate with every brand. You've got your Alpine Star, you've got your Sparkos, you've got your OMPs.
It's built into the glove itself.
Into the glove itself.
Oh, so it's not an Intimate.
No, it's built into the glove. So it has to be homologated and go through all the testing. It has to be set on fire. But there's also a Bluetooth module that actually transmits the data to the... I don't even know how the transmission works, but I think the FIA funded the development of it.
Gotcha.
And maybe the teams have to... It's an obligation. Like, you got to have it. So
it's like buying a race suit. You got to have it.
You've got to have it.
Yep.
You just got to have it as part of the deal, and you've got to maintain it. You've got to make sure the battery's working. I don't know what the ramifications are if it's not operating or if it runs out of battery out there. But the thing is with things like that is they know that it's in their best interest to use it. Yeah. Ultimately, it's only going to benefit them. And it was a hard one for them to get through because, drivers can be so precious about the most little things. And especially with gloves, like you talk about, we're all particular. Like, we've all got a pair of boots that we love, right? But with gloves as well, like if there was any sort of compromise, you knew that the drivers were going to whinge about it. So they put a lot of time into integrating it into the gloves seamlessly you weren't aware of it was even there. So they did a good job with it. So yeah, interesting.
100%. Any other questions for Carlos?
I think it's it, mate. It's been unreal. It's been great. It's good to get some insight in the medical stuff, but also chat motorsport and Formula One with someone who is just as keen as us.
It's a shame that you're away for as many of them as the others. We could have got you a regular spotty for our F1.
Mate, I will be back again
when you are back.
With bells on. I've got plenty of other stories that I haven't shared that I can share. So
it would be great to get you in just on a Carlos pod because you do have some amazing stories. There'd be some laughs.
It's a fun journey getting to know the drivers and some of the drivers' briefings. I don't know how much I can talk about.
Do you
the
get
drivers.
to sit in on some of those?
I'm expected to be at the drivers' briefing. So
right. Who's the biggest? Who speaks the most in drivers' briefing? Because I always find that interesting.
I
reckon Nick Percat in Supercars is the guy. If anyone's listening, I reckon he's the guy in Supercars always.
Percat, yeah. So if it's Nick in Supercars, it's probably George in Formula One.
I reckon. I could picture that.
George loves a fucking chat.
Don't even know the bloke, but he looks like a chatter. Sort of guy when you go out and he just turns up by himself and just tries to join your group or something.
Some great
always
stuff.
Got something to add.
Oh, some great content. With the topic around swearing, I don't know if I can share this, but he when the fines came out for swearing, all right, so the stewards came out and presented it to everyone. Okay, guys, this is what we've agreed upon. We think that we're meeting in the middle with you guys. We've listened to you. We've taken on board what you said. And what we've decided is that what happens in the car between you and your engineer is considered a private conversation. So anything goes on the radio because it's under pressure. But when it comes to a press conference, it's a controlled environment. It's in the public. You're not under pressure, so you're expected to do the right thing and not drop an F-bomb. And I remember, I think it was Carlos came in and said, well, what words are allowed and what's not allowed? How long's a piece of string? Shit.
Can we say tits?
Yeah, but
in what context would you ever need to say tits in a press conference, Elliot?
It was a swear word that I could say that wasn't too bad for the pod. I'll get fined on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, Carlos is like, everyone, but there's kind of this tension building because everyone's kind of beating around the bush. Like no one wants to drop an expletive on there. And this is hilarious. So I hope you guys appreciate this. Everyone's talking about the details of it, who what words are allowed, when is it appropriate, when is it inappropriate, what are the ramifications, it costs that much, I can't believe it costs that much, where does the money go to? And then George, it's sort of this quiet at the moment, and then George puts his hand up in the driver's briefing and goes, so what if I used a swear word in a positive way? And I won't say the name of the steward, but he goes, so what if I said in a press conference, like, so-and-so is a fucking legend. And everyone just started laughing in the middle of, like, he just dropped it. But it was,
I think it's a fair point.
It broke the ice beautifully. And of course the steward was like, oh no, that'll be fine. We'd allow that. That's no drama. It was a funny bit of banter, but it's fascinating being there, listening in. And it's funny, some of the drivers' briefings can go for 30 seconds. It's like quick in and out, and then some of them can go for like 2 hours when there's points of contention. I get it. They can come across as a little precious at times, but at the same time, you put yourself in their shoes, and they're risking life and limb out there on track. So when they've got an issue with, painted line on this corner or the particular curb, they're very particular about having circuit updates all the time. I can kind of get it, but it's just a new thing I'm led to believe. I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the same conversations were not taking place.
Is this drivers involved more in?
Drivers are a lot more involved in having a say of, whether this line is appropriate or that curb is appropriate or this gravel trap needs to be changed. They're very vocal now about it. Yep. Saying that, I saw a clip the other day of Ayrton Senna having a bit of a tiff with whoever the race director was.
French guy back then.
Yeah, like 1990, 1991 or something like that, advocating for something that he wanted for safety reasons. But they're looking at it both from a safety perspective and also from a performance perspective as well. And there's a little bit of a chess game going on in there as well, because they know the strengths and weaknesses of their own car and they're advocating for themselves. So it's made it so interesting just being there, fly on the wall in the background and listening to these conversations. Yeah.
That's cool.
The drivers are smart too, aren't they? It's where I think the categories do need to not go to teams and drivers so much for consultation.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need smart heads in those places to make the decisions without going to a race team for advice, because we do all have agendas. You can't even just bias that we don't even realise we have. We're always going to, I've talked about a bunch of times with Sandown, you and I, we both were like, fuck that. Last year they did this 2-lap thing before they dropped the safety car. They do a virtual safety car for 2 laps.
Yeah.
Mitigated any double stack risk. We were the only team, like they were 1-2 at 888.
Yeah.
And it obviously worked for us. At the end, I was like, no, I don't think it ruined the race at all.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to say that, even though I was like, I tried to look at it objectively, but at the end of the day, it helped me so much. I couldn't see past the benefits it had for me for the greater good.
Yeah.
So it's like, after I said on the pod, I had all these messages come in and go, are you fucking kidding me? That was the worst thing ever. It killed the race. And it did. So it's definitely hard that's why the teams and stuff shouldn't be involved in some of the decision making.
I got to say, talking about George being probably the most vocal in these drivers' briefings, he can come across. He does whinge about a few things, but in his defence, he's got, unlike the others who can only look at it from their perspective, he's got an incredible ability to remove himself from the situation and put himself in other people's shoes, to see it from different perspectives. So I have a lot of respect for George for his ability to do that in the drivers' briefings. Like, everyone could be bickering or arguing over a certain, hot topic, and George will kind of like go, take a step back and go, hey, guys, I can see it from this perspective. I can see it from this perspective. And he provides some clarity over the situation, whatever it might be. So, yeah, he's a clever guy.
Probably why he's risen to the head of the GPDA so quickly.
Yeah,
he's a young guy, only relatively new. He's leading the Grand Prix.
Smart and good leadership qualities as well. I think he's doing a good job leading Mercedes AMG.
I think they need to sign him.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I think, back to the conversation around Max, maybe I'll be proved wrong, but I feel like Max is more likely to go to Aston Martin than he is Mercedes AMG.
Yep.
I think continuity, I value continuity above anything else in a race team. And I think they do there at Mercedes AMG as well, having consistency with a junior driver, the senior driver, build some momentum. They're going to be quick next year. I'm so sure.
I've heard they're the quickest. You would know more than I do, but only the rumours we hear from testing sounds like they are going to have a good package next year. So
them and it'd be the usual suspects probably, but them and I really think that Aston will be at the pointy end of the grid. So
Good. I'd love to see Alonso get a few more podiums.
Alonso, was it 06, 07 world champion? Was that the 2 years? It was 05, 06.
05, 06.
Yeah.
05, 06. Imagine winning a world championship at the tender age of 44 next year.
What
a
about
legend.
There was a boxer.
Still time for you yet, Carlos.
There was a boxer. God, I wish I could remember his name. He just passed away. Famous boxer. And George Foreman.
Oh, George Foreman, yeah.
Go watch his
grills.
documentary about his comeback.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Very different to Alonso, but to come back, he came back at like 40 something and won a heavyweight world title after like 5 years out, and he was a minister, like a priest.
Yeah,
and decided to go back to make some money.
Beating the shit out of people.
And it was wild, but it is like it's almost unbelievable, but it's not unattainable in the right environment and with the right car. He proved only 3 years ago?
2 seasons ago.
2 seasons ago. He's getting podiums every week.
Consistently.
You put that guy in the fastest car in the lane.
Yeah.
And he rises to the occasion. I'd love to see him and Max go head to head.
That's what I want to see Max in there. Just more the Alonso-Max comparison.
Yeah.
The hunger is still there with Fernando, without a doubt.
Could you imagine the mind game? I reckon that it'd be very entertaining from our point of view on the couch watching those two.
Let's make it happen.
It
could be good. It'd be like Hamilton versus Alonso again.
Yes.
That was brilliant. All right, mate. Well, thank you very much. We'll have to get you back for sure when you're back in Oz. What's your next Grand Prix you attend?
Spa in, I guess it's 3 weeks' time, roughly. Yep. So Silverstone this weekend I'll miss. First couple I've missed. And then, Spa and then Budapest back-to-back. So I'll be away for 12 days, bit of vitamin D in Europe for a couple of weeks, and then back to this miserable cold that is Melbourne.
Yeah, I'm very envious. This is like, I am so white. It's ridiculous. I need some vitamin D. Very jealous.
You would just come back from Darwin, mate. Shut up.
Yeah, I know.
He's got some colour. No, thank you. But maybe when you get back from the next one, we do a recap on F1, what we've
100%, mate.
Let's
make it happen.
It'd be great to have you back.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Got some fun stories to share.
Thanks, Carlos.
Good on you.